I'm here with Johnny of Job for a Cowboy to talk about their latest record, their latest offering, I should say, Moon Healer, out February 23rd on Metal Blade Records. First of all, it's an absolutely pleasure and honor to have you on the channel to talk about Job for a Cowboy. I don't think I'm the only one. I didn't think this would ever happen, but here we are, and I'm happy that we are. It's been a 10-year hiatus, but good things come to those that wait, and we've waited, and now we're going to get a good thing.
I hope so. I hope
Well,
people
I've
like
heard
this
it
record.
already, so I can guarantee you it's a good thing.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, man. It's
I did. It surprised me on a like there was a lot of surprises on this album for me, and all of them were positive. And I thought you guys were really smart about how you approached this record and how you designed this record. And we'll talk more about that because I felt like you guys did something that a lot of bands within the genre of extreme metal, death metal are not necessarily doing. And I think they're losing a little bit of the plot here. But you guys did it, and I from the bottom of my heart, I totally appreciate it. So let's talk about the 10-year hiatus. What made this the right time for you guys to come back?
Man, why is it the right time? Well, I guess let me backpedal, I guess. Let me go back to where we were. So, the last main big tour we did was a Mayhem Festival in the United States. Shortly after that, we did our album Sun Eater, and after that, I was done. I shut the door on the band. I didn't like when the album came out. I didn't do any interviews. We didn't do any press. It was here's the record. Hope you like it. See you later, maybe. Long story short, I got my wife pregnant. Everything was put. The brakes were pushed on very hard once that was found out. I think some of the guys of the band were a little upset just due to the fact back then we were relentless with touring. It was, life to me, home to me was in a van or on a bus. I felt most comfortable in that scenario, but priorities change pretty dramatically once you find out you're gonna have a child come into the picture. I think you pretty sure you're a father yourself, if I remember right.
I am. I do my videos on YouTube with my son.
I think I've seen some. Yeah.
So I can relate to that. I can relate to that.
Yeah. So I think in hindsight now the band totally understands. We all hit a fork in the road. I went back to college. I focused on my degree to work on a lot of automation programming work and computer science. One of the guys, early guitar player, got his medical doctorate's degree, does a lot of medical research in Ireland now. Other guys did their own bands on the side, like Havoc. But finally, before I even say that, we never announced that the band was split up. It was always, let's leave the door cracked open because you feel like we might at some point come back. And I'm very glad we went that route because, right, I was just going to say the stars finally aligned and it was just finally time, we all collectively said, this is the perfect time. Let's commit to this project and let's go all in and write something really cool together. So it just took quite a bit of time to get there.
What was the hardest itch for you to scratch during this time period? Musically, in terms of what the band meant to you and obviously changing over into a more fatherhood role, did you have a musical itch that you needed to scratch that finally you get to do it, or no?
Yeah, it was definitely always there. Oh, I mean, the itch was always there. I mean, when you're doing something for so long, I mean, we started this band in my early teens, and that's all I did to my early adulthood. So putting this band on pause, it was difficult mentally. It's the itch was always there to do something. You go to a show, and it feels like I don't know if you've ever seen that meme of when you're watching a show but you're in a band, like you're watching a football game but you're watching the stand fully get up in football padding and gear with the helmet on. It's every show you you watch, you're like, man, I wish I could be up there and doing what I do. It's frustrating in a way. I'm just glad we finally got to a point where um, we're all in a point of our lives where we could all collectively work again together, and I could finally scratch that itch that's kind of always there and never really going away.
What was the mindset once you guys made the decision? Okay, we're going to get back together. We're going to work on some music. What was the mindset that led to the sonic output of Moon Healer?
Can you elaborate a little more on that?
What was your train of thought? Like, what were you guys thinking in terms of what you wanted out of this record? I mean, it's 10 years. The expectations are
Gotcha.
going to be high. What did you guys set as perhaps some of the goals for this album?
Right. I understand now. You know, um, when we released Sun Eater, the previous record, it was a little bittersweet because we put it out. We honestly got a very good reaction from it. People seem to generally really enjoy it, but we never got to reap the benefits of it as far as touring or just getting that fan reaction back. Um, our only real goal was just to pick up right where we left off, and we did to a degree. I mean, we wanted to keep the general idea and concept and general feel of the band of Moon Healer, but with this time, we just with that long break that we had, we could focus on our strengths and weaknesses. Like, for instance, our bass player, he's an amazing funk bass player. Our guitar player, he's an amazing fusion blues guitar player. So we put a little more emphasis on those sort of things, um, as far as, again, what our strengths were. And in the end, that was always just our goal, just to improve from where we left off.
I have great admiration for you guys, and I really enjoyed this record. But having said that, there's always a but. Having said that, my only gripe with this album comes down to the track listing. Did you guys ever consider closing the album with A Sorrow-Filled Moon?
No, that's interesting. Um, we've kind of had this tradition where we kind of close out with kind of our more slower mid-tempo song, but I think actually now looking back at it, that was kind of discussed as to what a track would be the closer itself, and I think that was actually, I mean, it had to be one or the other. So yeah.
Because I felt the album opening up with Beyond the Chemical Doorway was perfect. I don't think you guys could have picked a better track from the ones that you have available to you. Having 8 songs, being under 40 minutes in length for an album that is this thick, for a lack of a better term, it's
Yeah.
perfect because it doesn't overburden the listener. But I honestly felt like A Sorrow-Filled Moon had such a great closing quality that it kind of left me wondering if that was ever in the back of your mind, that because of the specific characteristics of that song combined to the specific characteristics of Beyond the Chemical Doorway.
That's interesting. And now that I think about that, I could totally understand where you're coming from. I mean, I totally agree. I think that could have been a very cool closer. Just with all of our discussions, and I think a lot of it had to do with the key as to which song ended in. So, you know, before our closing track, the Forever Rock, closed in a specific key, and it flows into the next key, into the next song very well. So we kind of focus heavily on that specifically, but I totally understand where you're coming from.
As far as the sound on this record, for those that haven't had the ability to listen to the album, the ones that are not as lucky as me, if you had to explain in words what this album sounds like, how would you go about doing that?
Ooh. Um, oh man, that's a tough one. Um, I mean, I'm just going to be as very general, and I'm just going to be very general as possible. I think it's a very technical record with a lot of uh, progressive pieces within it. But in the end, I just look at it as a weird hybrid of progressive and technical death metal. just to keep it as simple as possible. That's how I would look at it.
Do you see some sprinkles of psychedelic elements as well?
Absolutely. I mean, the lyrical concept in and of itself has much to do with psychedelics. So we try to incorporate that kind of general feel. I mean, I'm trying to say this without trying to sound um, but yeah, yes, we definitely try to sprinkle in the psychedelic
Because
essence and feel throughout the record.
did it in a way that's not necessarily in your face. It's not necessarily overpowering, but when you're listening to the record, every so often it kind of creeps in this little vibe. And I thought it was really important for the theme of the record. When you look at the artwork, when you look at the theme, when you look at the overall flow, when you look at the opening track, I mean, Beyond the Chemical Doorway, I mean, you cannot think of opening a chemical doorway without some psychedelics. So I honestly thought you guys did a very nice balance of creating an atmosphere in a record that is super heavy.
That's awesome to hear, man. That's exactly what we're going for. So it's awesome to hear from a person who's actually heard the record,
What,
completely understand that and get that from it. That's great.
what about for your vocals? Did you have to prepare a little bit more considering you had this big break in between albums? Did anything change for you vocally coming into the album?
I think with age, my voice has changed a bit. You know, you look at the Doom EP to what I sound like now. I think I sound a bit different, and a lot of that is intentional. Um, but as far as preparation goes, not really a whole lot needed to be done. It's kind of like riding a bike for me. And on top of that, a few years prior to this, we released a bit of a side project with some of the members of the band called Serpentinosis. So it kind of dipped my feet in the water again, just to, you know, try to get my vocals in a spot where I expected them to be. So I guess to answer your question, as far as preparation goes, no, not really. It's just second nature at this point.
I felt like your overall delivery was very balanced from beginning to end from on this record vocally. Uh, did you have in the back of your mind the idea that you wanted to stay as consistent as possible, considering how dynamic, fluid, even to a certain degree chaotic that progressive technical side of the sound pushes you and pulls you in so many different directions? Was that a thought process for you?
I mean, yeah, of course. I want to be as consistent as possible all the way through. Yeah, it's just again kind of what I alluded to earlier, trying to focus on our strengths and weaknesses, kind of analyzing what I've done in the past, and focusing of what I think I'm personally good at, and really hammering that through in the record is was the whole general goal there.
One thing is to release a record, being a dad. The other thing is to going back on the road. Are you planning on being as heavily busy touring as you guys were before, or are you guys going to take baby steps?
I think like with our band being all over the place personally, I can't imagine our band being as consistent in the touring aspect as we were in the past. I think it's going to be more special occasions, just because we again I'm a father with some very young children. Some of the guys have other full time careers as do I. So we definitely have a lot of talks of a lot of performances in the future. Unfortunately, at this point, nothing's confirmed yet, so I can't speak on any of it. But I would definitely think it's safe to say we're likely to come in your area sooner than later.
Well, that's great to hear. That is definitely great to hear, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels that way. That's dying to see you guys perform and playing this record. When you look back and when you guys announced that this album was coming out, were you surprised by the fan reaction, by how much love and how much interest everyone had about what you guys were doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I talked about this in some interviews earlier, as far as in this niche genre, as far as gatekeeping and elitism goes. Back in the day, reflecting back, I think I could admit I was guilty of being an elitist to some regard, and it was kind of a strange mindset to me personally to have, because I 10, 15 years ago, our band wasn't the most accepted in the death metal scene, and now I think it's vastly different. I think we're very accepted in that kind of niche audience and group. Um, so it seems very different now than it was in the past, but I think it's great. I think we kind of created a stigma from our original EP, the Doom EP, and people kind of clung on to that, and they created this perception of what the band sounded like and what it was. But I think it's safe to say when you look at that compared to what we're doing today, it's vastly different. I think with generations of younger listeners, we're more accepted in that light. But like this overall, just the reaction has been very surprising, especially being inactive for as long as we have been. We didn't really expect much of anything. In the end, this was just a fun project for us guys getting in there. We're becoming middle-aged, you know.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, so let's do something fun as a project. And again, we weren't expecting much, and it's just always a surprise seeing this much of a reaction.
Has the business side of things changed a lot as well during this time period? Have you noticed it?
It's hard to say because again, we're not as active as we once were, but honestly, it seems to be more of the same. I don't think the business has changed a whole lot as far as the metal musician. I think it's kind of more of the same right now. Yeah.
Well, Jonny, thank you very much for your time, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in Toronto at some point in time in 2024 so I can hear some of these tracks. I love the album. Let me just put it out there. I love the record. I think everybody should go pick it up. It's the best 39 minutes of death metal that I've heard in a very long time. I really enjoyed it, and I really like the fact that you guys didn't go 45 or 50 minutes, because I feel for an album like this to really have an impact with the listener and to allow the listener to want to go back to it again, this 8 songs, 39 minutes is like perfect. It's like the icing on the cake. When you get to the end of it, you feel like you didn't have enough. You're ready to go back again all over, and you don't just walk away from the album. This album has great playability.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that. That was one of our goals for sure.
Thank you very much, man. All the best with the release.
Thank you very much. You have a good day.
You too. Take care.